I'd like to introduce to you Billie DeWitt. Billie does serve currently on the City Council in Single Member District 6. Now, let me be upfront and say that my goal with these questions is to ask each of the candidates the same question. But since you are currently serving on the council, wording it that way would be rather kind of awkward. So as we go, there's a couple of questions that I needed to tweak just a bit. So I'll let you know how I worded it for them and then how I tweaked it for you. So my first question to them that I asked of your competitors is who is, and then whatever their name is. So let me adapt that and ask you, outside of serving on City Council, tell me about yourself, Billie.
Well, good morning, Kat. Thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity to share who I am. Billie DeWitt, married to DeLawrence DeWitt. We have a blended family of 6 children and 7 grandchildren. San Angelo is our home. We were born, we were raised here. My job took me away for about 10 years, but I couldn't wait to get back to San Angelo. I love this city and I love serving the community. And I'm retired from Ethicon after 34 years of service. I was a human resource professional, and you know, that caused me to have a real love for people. I just have a soft spot for people. That's just who I am. So if there's something that I can do to serve others, then that's what I want to be found doing.
Awesome, very good. And also kind of tweak this question, and you'll understand by the way I've worded it. What motivated you to run for this office again?
Okay, well, I really have to say that I think this council has served the city well. We have been progressive. When I ran my campaign 4 years ago, it was built on 3 pillars: people, purpose, and progress. And as I look back, and I was reflecting, when I was considering whether I was going to run again, I reflected on how well had I done in each of those areas. Even though I'm only 1 vote out of 7, I did have a voice and I had a vote. And when I reflected on those things, I thought, I think I did okay by the citizens in District 6 and even some of the other districts. Sometimes I'd get calls from other districts with people feeling that I might be able to, you know, to help them with whatever their issue was. So I always made myself available 24/7 to the citizens that could call me, and I would respond to their questions. When we talk about purpose, I feel like our purpose was to meet the needs of the citizens of San Angelo while keeping the city going. And when I looked at progress, I think we've had some amazing progress in certain areas. And Kat, I'll just say I'm not sure what other questions you're going to ask me, so I may have to save some of that. But okay. I think I did well on addressing the commitments that I made when I ran 4 years ago. I think, you know, I did a good job. I voted my conscience. I looked at the facts, and I would like to keep doing the work. I just want to keep working for the citizens of San Angelo.
All right. I asked your fellow candidates, have you been following City Council for a while? And what changes do you feel need to be made? Well, I need to adjust that a bit for you, so let me put it this way. Having served on City Council for the last 4 years, what changes do you feel need to be made?
Well, Kat, I think one of the things that I heard 4 years ago that I still hear today is about transparency. And sometimes it's really difficult to be totally candid about discussions that are held, for instance, in executive session, things like that. But I would like to be able to bring more transparency to the citizens of San Angelo. Tell them in a more real-time basis what it is that we're working, you know, toward. I thought I was going to let the cat out of the bag about the new airline coming to San Angelo when, you know, when the deal was being struck. I was just so excited about it because so many of my constituents that are business travelers wanted another option. And I was real excited about that coming to fruition, and I wanted to tell it. So I think an area that needs to be addressed, and I don't have an answer specifically, I'll just have to try to do my part to be more transparent. Another area is with accountability. Sometimes I'm not sure that we hold ourselves as accountable as we should. And an example of that is the recent perfect storm that we had. That, there was some things that happened with the water that I think maybe it needs to be addressed. And I think it's on us, the city council, to take a look at that and look at funds, because everything, Kat, is driven by the money you have in your coffers and whether you can do this and whether it, makes fiscal sense to do it. So another area I think that, we have some opportunities in is accountability.
All right, I'm going to ask you several different topics and what your perspective is on each one.
Okay.
Okay, there's
All right.
about 8, so there's
Okay.
a variety. So, first, our infrastructure and water lines collapsing.
Yes, ma'am. And that's one of the areas certainly that we want to look at. Now, that has already been addressed a little bit by a previous council before us 4 years ago, when the council had the 10-year infrastructure plan, $80 million project to start rebuilding some of the streets, restructuring them from below the ground up. And that continues on today. And hopefully as we move forward, we will, when they reconstruct the streets, one of the things that our engineering department has put in place is they try to move the water lines, the water mains from directly under the street, so that when we do have a main break, you aren't having to rip up the whole street to repair the main. So they're trying to move it more into the right of way, when they reconstruct the street. So we know that is a long-term project, but something I think we need to continue to do. We need to also take a look at, we hope that this was a one and done storm that happened in February, but we don't know that, Kat. So one of the things that I think we need to take a look at is when we have when we need to repair a water main, do we need to bury it deeper? Now, I know that some of the issues are our rough terrain out here and the type of soil that we have, that may not allow us to go as deep as we'd like to. So we have to take that into consideration. And that's one of the things, Kat, when I talked about transparency a little bit earlier, those are the kind of discussions we're having, but I'm wondering if those discussions are really getting out to citizens so that they are truly aware of that we can't necessarily bury water lines 6 feet deep in all of the areas in San Angelo because of the different terrain. So certainly our infrastructure when it comes to water mains and water lines, we need to address that. We need to take a look at this daisy chain of how we repressurize our water tanks. Because of course in my district, which is not a good time for me to be running for re-election, we were the last ones, to get water on the higher plane. But it was, a factor of the way the system has to pressurize to be able to put, fill the tank in the Bluffs, which is the highest tank in the city. So, I want to investigate those things. Maybe we can't do anything about it, but I would like to be able to say, we have looked at it, and here are, the problems that would cause, and right now we just can't afford it, or whatever the truth is, whatever the fact of the situation is, that's what I'd like to be able to tell our citizenry.
Next topic for perspective, our city streets.
Yes, ma'am. That is, I think city roadway just took the third seat from, the power and then the water and everything. But we do have our capital improvement plan that we're about to start reviewing, and we have to prioritize which streets come first.
Yeah.
Now, with the recent storm, because of the havoc that it wreaked on the streets, that's going to push us back a little further on addressing some of the streets that we had, because they have to do the repair work first, and there's a lot of repair work to be done. But you know, that continues to be a priority. When you talk about water, when you talk about our streets, those are priorities that are the same for the council as they are for the citizens of San Angelo. And I know it would be wonderful if we had the resources, both staff and money, to do lots of streets all at the same time, but that's just not feasible. We aren't physically able to do that, and so we have to try to prioritize what we consider to be the worst streets. And you know, we have that list right now, and they're working on Bell Street, and then they're going to move over to Southwest, I believe, right where the McDonald's is, and look at doing that up to Avenue N, which is, you know, a street that's traveled a lot by a lot of people. So that's a priority, our roadway.
All right. How about rising crime and the murder rate that's gone up?
Well, public safety is something else that when we have our strategic planning meetings every year, we try to keep our public safety in mind. And we're having a lot of crime, and I think as our city grows, Kat, I think that we may see that increase. I think our chief of police and his assistant chiefs and our patrol division, I think they're all doing what they can to address and to, you know, bring culprits to, you know, to the justice system. But, you know, it's something that I think we all have to get involved in. I hate to always use cliches, but it's more like if you see something, say something. And I think that goes a long way. When we have our, you know, neighborhood crime patrol and things like that, I think it really helps. And we have some social media that really helps us, because people put out on Next Door Neighbor, if you see this car, this is what happened. And so it alerts the community. So I think our police department does a lot. And what we as a council have done to help them is that we have, you know, approved finances for them to, for instance, get body cameras. One of the other things we're looking at, because of all the issues that cities had around the country last summer, the mayor wanted to put together a policing work group for us to take a look at what happens in San Angelo, how it's handled, and what we need to do to make sure we shore up our community and support our law enforcement officers, at the same time taking care of the citizenry of this city. And so we started meeting last June. There were 2 city council representatives, myself included, and our city attorney, and then 10 members from the community that are working with us on this. And we continue to meet. We, in fact, you know, have completed a survey to say, what is it citizens feel that they need to do to address any criminal behavior or crime in the city. So we're about to get that presented to us, and we won't be saying that 50 people said this or 75 people said this. What we're going to do is address the top 3 things on that citizens reported back to us that we needed to do to make sure we're addressing any criminal activity in our community. So, you know, I think we're paying attention to that, and, you know, I just thank the mayor for putting together, or asking us to be a part of that group and to start taking a look at that. So we are doing that, and Chief Carter and his staff are working with us to be sure that we understand what their policies and procedures are, and what we can do and what we can't do, and everything.
Right.
And sometimes it gets a little bit defensive, a little bit about is somebody pointing the finger, but that's not the intent at all. It's to bring us together as a community, and a community that supports all of the citizens.
Okay, your perspective on statewide pandemic mandates and the local orders from the health department here.
Okay. Well, we know this pandemic was a really, really crushing activity that has had us gripped for over a year now. And I so appreciate it when we put in place initiatives that help to slow the spread of the coronavirus. I thought that was the right thing to do. I think, the statewide mask mandate, I supported that 100%. And just let me say right up front is that I know there were people that, couldn't wear masks for health reasons. And I understood that, and I appreciated that. And I respected people for not being able to do that. But those of us that could, I thought we should have. And so I think it did work. I think when we see the numbers go from where they were in San Angelo, because I was personal friends with the very first person that died, due to COVID-19. So when I look at when we're reporting just 7 positives, now of course that could be a reality of us not doing as much testing as we were, but I look at the number of hospitalizations, how that has dropped, and I look at our recovery rate. So, I think what was put in place was the right thing to do. And right now the jury is out on the governor opening up to a couple of days ago, lifting all of the restrictions. I know that is so good for business, and believe me, I want our businesses to thrive and to grow and to be profitable. I absolutely want that. At the same time, I'm just praying, Kat, that we don't see a surge because, we've stopped wearing our mask. I will continue to wear my mask when I'm out in public because, it's my understanding that the mask doesn't, my man wearing a mask doesn't protect me, it protects you. And so I want to be respectful and respect those and protect those that I come into contact with. So I will still wear a mask.
All right, your perspective on dog parks and bike trails.
I support them. I support exercise and healthy lifestyles, and we've been a family of fur babies while my kids were growing up, and I just have a love for it. And I'm appreciative that we have the one dog park that we have. I know that some people do not agree with that because they feel like too much money was spent to do that. But another area where sometimes people need to understand, the city invested very little financially in that. The young lady that got that started, she raised most of the money to develop and build that part as a part of a project she was working on. So I support the dog park, I support bike trails, and I just I'm happy to see people enjoy their fur babies outside and to ride their bikes.
Downtown beautification.
Yes, ma'am.
Your perspective.
I think that a vibrant downtown in any city is a good asset for that city. So my perspective on that is that when we have funds available to continue to beautify our downtown or have downtown development, that we need to seize upon that. I'm glad to see that businesses are starting to relocate and purchase the buildings that are downtown. So I think it's a good thing. And when we look at the history behind San Angelo, I think that creating a vibrant downtown will be a critical asset to our city for years to come. And sometimes, you know, the gateway that they did on Bryant Thruway and Concho, I know that there were some comments that were not real in favor of that. Why are we spending money there when we have other areas of San Angelo that need more? But we took advantage of a TxDOT grant to do that. So they funded a big portion of that part of that gateway to downtown San Angelo. And I think we have to sometimes be flexible. If we are going to get support from one of our partners in doing something to make our city better, I think we have to at least consider it. So, you know, I support downtown development.
And one last one out of this group, the loss of sales tax and hot tax due to the pandemic and the shutdowns it created.
We have a wonderful finance group, and our finance director stays on top of looking at the potential of what may happen. So when COVID struck and businesses had to close, we knew right away, of course, that we were going to have a dip in sales tax. So what the council reviewed and approved were budget amendments and recommendations to be able to accommodate a loss in sales tax dollars without reducing, you know, city services. And I think that we did a good job of managing through that financial crisis and without any huge adverse impact. And I think we're on the road to recovery. I was just reading a sales report and a report from the chamber on the benefit that we've had recently for some activities that have come to San Angelo, and you know, how many beds we filled and how much revenue we got. So it's starting to pick up. So I think we managed through the crisis and that we're on the upside of this.
All right. Different topic. Would you be interested in seeing San Angelo become a sanctuary city for unborn children?
I think I would have to know more about it. You know, I think sanctuary cities take on an unknown quantity of exactly what that is. So all that I hear about sanctuary cities is that the criminal behavior, that we hide criminals. So when you talk about a sanctuary city for unborn babies, maybe I just hadn't really thought about that. I'm sorry.
Typically, the other cities that have done it, that is, they become anti-abortion.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So in case
okay.
you needed that clarity,
Okay.
I think we have 20 cities in the state of Texas now that have declared, I think I'm correct on that, have declared themselves sanctuary cities for the unborn.
Okay. Well, thank you for that clarification. I appreciate that. I don't guess I would have any problem with that. Kat, you know, when it comes to the issue of abortion, I do not support abortion. I would love to see babies delivered and put up for adoption, you know, rather than to abort them, except in the case of, you know, a life-threatening situation. So I don't support that, but, you know, at the same time, and this may sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but here's how I see it, is that I don't support abortion, but I do support people's choice. You know, I'm a spiritual woman, and I look at it, God gave people the very first choice when he gave Adam and Eve the choice of whether or not to eat the fruit. And from that point, and because of their disobedience, they had to pay for that. And to me, if I make poor choices, then I'm responsible for my choices. And God is going to see that, I'm accountable for those choices that I made. So it's really difficult probably for people to understand my position. I don't support abortion, but I do support people's choice to make the decision that they feel is best for them, simply because of the spiritual nature of who I am.
All right, along the same line, would you be interested in seeing San Angelo become a sanctuary city for illegal aliens?
I really don't think so, Kat. That is, when you look at when you look at humanity and how I see people and how I see other people, I want to support people. And when I look at the DACA program that was put in place some years ago, and those kids being brought or sent here or whatever without, having any choice in the matter, I think, and this is all they know. The United States of America, maybe San Angelo, Texas is all they know. I think they need to have a fair chance to continue living where they have grown up. I really do. This just goes back forever and ever and ever. But when my race was brought over here as slaves, we didn't have any choice in coming over here as slaves. But this was all I have ever known. And so it's one of those things where I have great empathy for immigrants that are looking for a better life for their families. And I don't know that San Angelo should become a sanctuary city, but I wish somebody would come up with this great brainstorm of an idea of an effective measure to deal with this, because immigration policies have been dealt with forever. Nothing satisfied everybody, and I just wish God would plant some wisdom in this head or some head somewhere to give us a way to go that we could all embrace and feel okay about.
Yeah. One more question in regards to a sanctuary city.
Okay.
This time for the Second Amendment.
In what perspective? A sanctuary city, in what perspective for gun control?
It is legal to, a sanctuary city, it would be legal to have your guns.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I support that. My husband and I both have guns in our household. My husband has his license to carry, and I took all the training and did all of the prep work for it, and then something happened with my fingerprints, and they said I needed to come back, and I thought, he's got his license to carry. I don't need to do that. And that was back in 1991 when I was moving to Cincinnati, Ohio.
Wow.
And I had never lived any place but San Angelo, and I took this gun safety course because I was going to be a prepared woman, living by myself, because my husband and son were staying here because of school situation and other things. And so, yes, I do support the Second Amendment and people's right to bear arms. But, I think, Kat, as with anything, there has to be some reasonableness associated with it. So I support background checks. I support them taking my fingerprints to approve me, to make sure I hadn't, done something criminal and I was trying to get a gun. I support things like that, but I do support the right to bear arms, yes.
All right, let's move on. What do you consider the main priorities that need to be addressed by the City Council?
Short-term, long-term water initiatives and our infrastructure. Both water infrastructure and roadway infrastructure, I think, are the top priorities for me. And continuing economic development is another priority. I just believe that we need to have continued economic development to grow our tax base, Kat. One of the things that I've been most proud of, and I can't say it's something to really be proud of, is that we've maintained our tax rate for the city. I'm happy that we've been able to maintain it, but I'd like to lower it. And the only way that is going to be possible is if we grow our tax base through economic development. Now, I'm real excited about our rail port, and that's going to be a huge economic generator for the city of San Angelo when that rail port starts to function and we see that we're able to transport our agricultural supplies, fuel supplies and things like that. I think is going to be a real boon. And we see companies that are wanting to come to San Angelo. The Double J land processing plant, that's going to be a big economic indicator for us. And our current businesses growing and expanding and adding new employees. So those are my top three, Kat. Our, water infrastructure, well, long-term and short-term water supply, our infrastructure, both water and our roadway, and economic development.
Okay, you kind of bled into the next question. That's okay though. So, but you can define it a little better. Do you believe there is a way to trim back on the city budget and live within a modest budget without increasing taxes?
Yes. And primarily that's through economic development. But we have to, when we review the budget, we have to look at, what are those things being requested, and is it something that we absolutely have to have to maintain the quality of life for our citizens? And we want to certainly not raise taxes. That is a goal that this council has, is to not raise our tax rate. Now, some people, when your property is reappraised and the appraised value of your property goes up and that increases the taxes, sometimes people see that as the city raising the taxes, but we're not, and we're pretty committed. So if we have to cut back on some resources in order to not raise our tax rate, I think we're going to look at that long and hard.
Okay. Do you support freedom of speech, religion, gun rights, our Constitution as it was written?
I think as it was written and the intent that you sometimes read between the lines, I do support that. I support freedom of speech. I don't always agree with the speech, but I do support freedom of speech. And I think some of the limits on freedom of speech, like, I can't say what amendment this was, but you can't shout fire in a crowded theater, that sort of thing. Well, no, I wouldn't support anything, like that. But I do support our right to say things. And I can tell you, being a person of color, people have called me out of my name. And, there wasn't a whole lot I could do about it unless I wanted to go to, punch him and go to jail or something, get assault charges filed on me. But, I just am a great respecter of others. And I try to treat everybody with dignity and respect. And I would hope that people would feel the same toward me. But I do support that. I support, I think you mentioned
Religion,
religion,
gun
yes,
rights.
yes. That's what if I'm not wrong, I think that's what the United States of America was built on, because they wanted some religious freedom. So I support religious freedom, yes.
All right. Do you prefer the type of leadership Trump gave us, or how Biden is leading now?
I support how Biden is leading now. Part of the problem that I had with Donald Trump's leadership was that it seemed to create so much chaos. and you just got weary of all of the adverse actions, words that were going on. I got so tired of the misinformation. And, I'll use the pandemic as this because I was just looking at something yesterday that was showing how when it first started, President Trump at that time said, oh, this is just going to disappear. It's just going to go away. And we see that over 500,000 people have died from it. And I look at the stories of people who have lost loved ones to that. And so the fact that President Biden is now moving toward what his health experts are telling him needs to be done as far as, getting people vaccinated. Let's increase the number of vaccines. Let's get people out there being able to get people vaccinated that want vaccinations. That's a kind of leadership. Okay, give me the facts. Tell me what you're going to do to take me down this. And let it be truthful and honest.
How can San Angelo protect itself from the influx of illegals that are flowing over our borders now?
Well, I think that comes to our public safety department and our police force and state troopers patrolling our areas and, trying to deal with anybody that's here that shouldn't be here.
All right. Final thoughts and comments. So if there's something we didn't cover that you'd like to share, please do.
Okay. Well, I thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. And I am seeking re-election because I want to continue the work that we've started over these last 4 years. I want to continue to serve a community that I love. And that's why I'm seeking re-election, is that I want to consider to do a good job representing the people of District 6 and all the people of the city of San Angelo. And I think my experience over these years will give me momentum to continue to make decisions, to cast votes that will benefit all of us in the long run. So I'm seeking re-election, and I seek your vote.
If somebody wanted to get more information, do you have a website or a Facebook page, or how can they get in touch with you?
Well, I have a Facebook page, but they can always call me. I love the personal people contact. So if they want more information, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Next Door Neighbor, or they can call me on my landline. I'm listed in the telephone directory, or my city phone, which is listed on the city website.
All right, very good. Thank you so much for your time this morning, Billie. I really do appreciate it, and all the best in your race.
Thank you so much, Kat. I appreciate you a lot.